Today we are going to be doing lesson 35-1, two-way tables. And that is on page 477. So please get out your book, open it to page 477, and take some notes. All right. So up until now, we've been doing scatter plots. We've been analyzing bivariate data. So bivariate data is two variables. But what if you want more than two variables? And our variables were always numerical, which means they were numbers. But what if you don't want numbers? So variables that are not numerical are called categorical variables. And this is on the next page, page 478. We have a definition here. Categorical variables are used to represent categorical as opposed to numerical data. So categorical data could be a color, so brown. It could be like favorable, or it could be a month. Categorical is any variable that is not a number, okay? So here we're looking at a situation. So Greg is curious about students' opinions. So he's going to do a survey, and this is the survey he's come up with. So he's going to hand these out. People are just going to circle them. And he's asking two questions. One is, do you support the new policy for healthier choices being served in the school cafeteria? And he's letting them have three options. So there's either support, oppose, or not sure. And he's also asking about the spirit day. Was it a success in terms of raising school spirit? And again, three options. It was a success, it was not a success, or I'm not sure. And then in addition to that, he would like to know what grade they're in, whether they're in 7th grade or 8th grade, because he thinks that there might be a difference between the way 7th graders think about these issues and the way 8th graders. So maybe if I was taking this survey, I'd say I support healthier food for sure. I'm not sure that spirit day really helped out, and let's say I'm in 8th grade, right? So he's going to get a whole bunch of these. He's going to pass them out all over the school, hopefully in a random way. And then he needs a way to show his results. Now the thing is there will be 7th graders who support the healthier choices, and there will be 8th graders. So just showing this isn't going to be clear. And that is why we need a two-way table. A two-way table allows us to show information that falls into different categories. So across the top, we have those three choices that he gave everybody: support, oppose, not sure, and total. But then those big buckets that we're putting the data into is also broken down by 7th grader, 8th grader, and then the total number of students. So that we could figure out what part of the support for the healthier lunches is 7th graders and what part of that support is 8th graders. Or we could figure out what part of 8th graders support or oppose or are not sure. So when you're analyzing a two-way table, it's really important to read the instructions carefully so that you know whether you're figuring out what part of the support of the total or what part of the 7th graders over the total, because it's going to give you different answers. Okay, so let's look at this first question. What percentage of 7th graders support the new policy for healthier choices being served in the school cafeteria? Okay, so I'm pretty sure that last year you used the formula the percent over 100 is equal to the part divided by the whole. Remember that? I think you did that last year. Different teachers teach it different ways, but I like this way because it always works. This isn't necessarily the fastest way when you're trying to find the part, but it's great if you're trying to find the whole or the percent. So the percent's what we're trying to find. They said what percent, so I don't know. So where the percent goes, I'm going to put in a variable. And the percent always goes over 100, so my variable goes over 100. Equal to, now I need the part over the whole. So what percentage of the 7th graders, after the word of, is the whole? So the whole thing is all of the 7th graders. This is the total support, not the total 7th graders. So I got to go across the row here, and I find that this survey was taken by the total of 150 7th graders. Okay, and then I got to figure out the part. Well, they're asking for which part of the 7th graders support the new policy. So I'm going to take this number right here, the supporters. So I have 111 out of 150 supporters. 111 supporters out of 150 total students, and I can cross multiply here to turn that into a percent. So I'm going to have 100 times 111, which is going to give me 11,100, is equal to, and then when I cross multiply this way, I get 150 times x. Divide both sides by 150, and I get x is equal to, so 11100 divided by 150 gives me 74, which means 74% of the 7th graders are supporting the new healthier choices. Somehow they made it healthy and tasty, because 74% is a lot of kids. Okay? Now the next question says, what percentage of 8th graders support the new policy? So we're going to do the math again. If you could pause the video right now and try this one on your own, and then go ahead and hit play when you're done, and let's see if you did it right. Okay, so again, we need to know the percent, so that goes over 100. And now we're looking at 8th graders. So the part is 180. That's the part of all the 8th graders that support the new choices. And then the total for 8th graders is 250. So we cross multiply here, and I get 250 times x is equal to 180 and then 2 zeros. When I multiply times 100, I can just tack 2 zeros on there. Trying to get x by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by 250, and I get 18000 divided by 250 gives me 72. So 72% of 8th graders also like the meals. So now they're asking us, are the percentages similar or very different? And I would say that they're similar, right? If you're just asking, do most of the 7th and 8th graders support school lunches? They do. These numbers are actually close enough that you probably didn't need to break it out by 7th and 8th graders. Their opinions are basically the same. All right. Let's move on. All right, page 479. 479. A segmented bar graph. So we don't have a scatter plot. You can't do a scatter plot when you have data like this. So what visualization can we show? And that is a segmented bar graph. A segmented bar graph is a lot like a regular bar graph, but it always totals 100%. So I can right now draw in, down here on question number 6, I can draw in my 2 bars because they're always going to total 100%. How fun. So the 2 bars in your bar graph are both going to add to 100%. A segmented bar graph means I'm going to cut these bars up to show support, oppose, and not sure. Okay? And then to cut them up, you can see here on the y-axis, we're cutting them up by percentage to have a nice visual of what everybody thinks about the healthier choices. Okay, in order to cut these up by the right percent, I need to fill in this table, and this table needs to be all the percents. So we already know that 74% of 7th graders support the new delicious school lunches, and we know that 72% of 8th graders support the new healthy lunches. What I need to know is what percent oppose. So let's do that math right now. If you want, you can pause the video and go ahead and figure out what percent of 7th graders oppose the new healthier choices and what percent of 8th graders oppose. And then go ahead and hit play when you're done. Okay, so for 7th graders, I need the part over the whole. It's going to be 30 over 150. So let's just do that over here. So I don't know the percent over 100 is equal to 30 over 150. I can actually simplify this, which is going to make my math easier. So I got x over 100 is equal to, if I divide top and bottom by 10, I get 3 over 15. If I divide top and bottom by 3, I get 1 over 5. Ah, that's nice. So 5 times x is 5x. If you got a calculator, it doesn't matter, but sometimes you don't have a calculator. And then I divide both sides by 5, and I get x is equal to 20. And remember, x was the percent, so it is 20%. So 20% of the 7th graders are like, I do not like healthy food. I prefer spicy Cheetos. Okay, and then we got 8th graders. So let's check out our 8th graders in the table. They're at 55% oppose out of a total of 250. So that's going to be my fraction. So 55 over 250 is equal to x over 100. Cross multiply. I could simplify this one too. Divide by 5 and I get 11 over 50. Right? Pretty sure. Is equal to x over 100. Cross multiply. Oh no, 250. Oh no, that's right. Okay, so I've got 50 times x is equal to 1100. Divide by 50. And I get 22. So x equals 22. So 22% oppose. And then we got to do it again for not sure. So let's take a look at the table again. So for 7th graders, 9 out of the 150 were not sure. So I get x over 100 is equal to 9 over 150. Cross multiply. And I get 900 is equal to 150 times x. Divide both sides by 150. 900 divided by 150 gives me 6. These are very nice whole numbers. So I can say that 6% of 7th graders are not sure. Let's try 8th graders. X over 100 is equal to, so for 8th graders, 15 out of the 250 we're not sure. So that's my fraction. 15 out of the 250. And then I'm going to cross multiply. So 250 times x is equal to 1500. Divide both sides by 250. And I get x is equal to 6. Oh, look, it's the same. All right. And if I add these up, I could check real quick, but they should add to 100, agreed? So 74 plus 20 plus 6 is equal to, yay, 100%. Because these are all the kids, right? So 72 plus 22 plus 6 is equal to 100. Sometimes you have to round these off. In fact, most of the time, these aren't going to work out to be nice, perfect numbers. And then when you add them up, sometimes you'll get 99 or 101.2. They should just be really close to 100. Okay. Are you ready to segment your bar graph? So, what we need is, it doesn't matter what order, but since they're not sure oppose support, that's what I'm going to do here. So support's going to be on the bottom. So for a 7th grader, support was 74%. So that's 60, that's 70, 75 would be in the middle. So 74 would be a little lower. So I'm going to shade this like this. And I'm going to make a little box that's similarly shaded right here to show that the diagonal lines show support. For 8th graders, it's 72%, so it's going to be, that's 60, that's 70. It's still going to be above 70, but just a little bit less, right? It's actually really hard to show that those are different in our segmented bar graph. Okay, now I'm going to shade in for oppose. And for oppose, let's just leave it empty. So if I add 74 plus 20, I get 94. So I need to get up to 94 here. So there's 80, there's 90, there's 95. So 94 is just a little bit lower. Okay? So the reason that I went for 94 is I want this box here that starts at 74. If it ends at 94, then this must represent 20% of this total column that is my bar graph. So let's do that for the 8th graders. So the 8th graders, we started with 72, and we added 22, and look at that, 94 again. So I can make this one at exactly the same height as that one. Okay, and then we have not sure. So if we're not sure, let's do polka dot. I'm a fan of polka dot. Okay? And that's just going to be the rest. This is 6%. So I'm showing that 6% are not sure. And do you see how easy this is to read? There's a lot of data. If we look back at our table, it's not super obvious what's going on. Although I can see that a lot fewer kids are not sure than support or oppose. But since we had more 8th graders, it kind of looks like 8th graders have more support than 7th graders. Agreed? Because this number is so much bigger. But if we look at the percents, that number is only bigger because they talk to more 8th graders. So once we change it into a percent, it's easier to see that actually 8th graders are slightly less supportive than 7th graders of this healthier school choices. All right. I hope that this was clear. Go ahead and give your homework a try. If you have any questions, then join us on Zoom today.